rehabilitator here at SeaWorld Orlando. SeaWorld Animal Care Team runs our animal care rescue and rehabilitation for cetaceans and manatees and any other mammal that is called for our need. You know, we're on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. That's what we do. When a call for our assistance comes from whichever agency requesting, then SeaWorld will respond. Immediately we'll get crews going and we'll go out there. Behind me are some of the manatees that we've rescued in the past year. Each one of them has a different story of why they came in or what purpose. The guys who are back here, and I say guys because these are all males, our females are actually in another pool. They're kept separate. Our males that are in this pool right here are actually all what we call female health, ready to be returned back to the wild. When they get returned, I heard the question be asked, when they get returned, that is a discussion that is a decision that's made by Florida Fish and Wildlife and U.S. Fish and Wildlife. Discussions are made, times of when, all depends on the animal, the situation, why they're rescued, and the best return point and time for the animal's success. So some animals will be returned during the cold season, what we call a cold season release or return. That's due to they're naive, so we're going to release them into a warm spring. They're going to be with other manatees. That way, while we track them, you'll be able to see that they're following other manatees and learning the migration routes and what they need. So hopefully, they don't get themselves back into the same cause that brought us here in the first place. Other animals might be a west coast, an east coast, south, north. It's all dependent on what region animals from, where they came from, where we go. Now to the rescue team, we'll respond anytime the call is there. We respond to cetaceans, which are dolphins, whales. We also respond to manatees. It depends who is calling first. When it comes to cetaceans, National Marine Fisheries has to request our services. Once they request it, we put teams together and we go. When it comes to manatees, like I said, that's U.S. Fish and Wildlife, they'll call. The great thing going on here for Wild Day weekends is our guests and public get to come in and hear a lot more about these stories. You get to see a side that most people don't see here at SeaWorld. Unless you come on a tour back here, you might not ever see our rehabilitation centers. You know, next weekend, the second weekend of Wild Days is going to be Sea Rescue Weekend. We have a national show, Sea Rescue, that we're going to actually have the stars of the show out there to talk to people, interact, question and answers, allow people to get a sneak peek at what's coming up in the new, and a much more in-depth understanding of what our rescue program is all about and what we do here at SeaWorld. You know, everybody's got to remember it's not just SeaWorld. There's an entire stranding network that works together. We all work together to do this. It can't be done by one or the other. So there's a lot of agencies and a lot of groups who all work together. You guys have any questions?
Can you, like you were mentioning earlier, we were learning about the babies that you take in the orphans. Can you kind of walk us through the process of actually bringing one to health, and then, like, do you put them with adults?
Sure.
Yeah, and how do they learn?
Yeah, I can walk you through the process short and quick. Simple answer is, an orphan is found by public, by FWC. Someone notices there's a baby manatee by itself, or a baby dolphin for that case too. At that point, the agencies are going to go out there and watch. They're going to ensure that it's actually an orphan. If it's got a mother next to it or another one next to it, they're going to sit with that animal for quite a while, 24, 48 hours, as long as health and everything looks okay, to ensure, yes, it's mother. If it's determined that it is an orphan, or that is in need of rescue, they will contact us and ask us, and we'll put a team together to go out and assist them. It's not just SeaWorld by itself again, there's a whole group. Neonate comes in. Right now we have 4 neonates back there, 4 orphan manatee neonates. Neonate comes in, first thing is health. It's the first thing, it's sort of a triage setup. You get them in, you get them assessed, and you figure out what needs for the animal's health need to be done. That process takes some time to go through. You know, the first 24 hours is just get them stable. After that, you start getting nutrition, trying to make sure we get all the values there. At that point, the animal starts gaining weight for us. The animal starts showing us that medically it's starting to look good again. We'll go to bottles. They talk about bottles. That doesn't happen in the first day or two. It really doesn't. You know, you have to ensure they get the nutrition. Then we can slowly teach them to take a bottle. They have a natural sucker reflex, just like any baby. Once they realize that a warm, sweet little formula is coming out of the nipple itself, they go to it pretty readily and pretty quickly. At that point, we've got every 3 hours around the clock, bottle feeding or tube. This goes on until those animals are at a weight and start to eat a little bit of lettuce. When they start to eat lettuce and their weights are good and everything looks good, then we start shifting from bottles to more vegetation. Once we get to a point where they're eating enough vegetation to sustain weight and growth and everything they need nutritionally, now we can look at the process of moving them in with other manatees. Might put them in with other males if they're males. Might take them out to our exhibit as young ones to be with some of our big females that are out there that will allow them to interact with manatees. Once we're at that point, it's a hands-off setup for us, outside of manatee checking them. We put them out there, they start interacting, we keep close observations to ensure everything's going right, but it starts becoming hands-off. Once they hit a certain weight and a certain length, then they're inside the return categories. At that point, the entire group will get together, not just SeaWorld again, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, Florida Fish and Wildlife, the consortium will all get together and discuss the individual animals, from the veterinarian end to what is observed in the animal itself. Once all that's decided, then it's deemed if this animal is going to be returned or if this animal is going to wait a little while longer. We don't just return them and say, you're good, have a nice day. It doesn't work that way. They get returned, they're going to be tracked. We're going to watch them. They'll get a satellite track, most of them. They're going to get a belt put on that's got sonic and VHF. We're going to recheck them on certain weight points over the next year. And if everything still looks good and the consortium all agrees, at the end of that weight points of that year, they're going to go ahead and say, let's go ahead and take the tag off. It doesn't mean you're done. It just means they've got to the point where it's successful. You can take it off. Observations, you can continue that area. Public, we're going to talk to. They're going to put it out. So everybody keeps a little eye out there for us and go from there. Now, if that animal, for some reason, can't be returned, then everybody will get together to decide who should care for this animal and how that will proceed. Is that, in a nutshell, get it for you?
Yes.
All right. You know, some of the facts people might not know, we've rescued over 22,000 animals in the 40 years that we've had a rescue rehabilitation program going. This is a huge, huge project. You know, people hear about the dolphins and you hear about the manatees. A lot of people don't hear about all the sea turtles, the flamingos, the birds, the fish, all these other animals that we actually do. And Wild Days and Sea Rescue is a way we can get the story out there about all the animals we rescue and the people who are dedicated to doing this. We have a large team that work relentlessly to get the outcomes we get. Any other questions?